It's right on time. I'll get started. I have so much to show you that I can't spare a second to wait for more people to come in, so they will join us as they join. Let me see, just get this one started. The agenda for today, we have a busy program. I have 92 slides, an hour and 15 to run through it. So, are you ready? Okay. I actually only have 3 slides, and they're mandatory. Apart from that, the rest will be, there you go. The rest will be all demos, going through all the new design tools and the features that we have for analysis services in Denali, in particular for developing the tabular projects. My name is Julie Strauss. I am a program manager on the analysis services team. I joined the team when we started working on Power Pivot. V1 worked through that, and now focused a lot on the tools for the Denali release. I know it's pretty tedious, but I have to do this. Believe me, it's for your own good. I have to do the show of hands. Because there is so much content, I want to see a little bit who you are, what you know already, so I can quickly browse through some of the stuff that most of you may already know, and weed out a little bit. So the first question is, how many did actually attend Ashwini and TK's session yesterday? Good. If you think that went fast, yes, this will go in faster. Good, that was a good mix. A lot of what Ashwini showed briefly will go more in depth with, so this will be more how to create it. How many of you are currently working or have been working with Analysis Services 2008 R2 or any previous release? There you go. How many of you have been working or are working with Power Pivot? Okay. How many of you have never seen a demo of Power Pivot? Well, that's a few. Okay. With that, I think I can get started. Feel free to ask questions as we go. I will feel free to not answer them, depending on the answer. Because there's so much content, if it's very specific or if it's a long answer, I'll park it. We can take it afterwards. You can come up. You can send me emails, jstrauss@microsoft.com. You will get your questions answered, but I want to spend as much of the time for the common good of people, and then we can take the others offline. Okay? So a couple of mandatory slides. For those of you who attended the session from Ashwini and TK yesterday, you've already seen this. I'm going to focus on the top section, which is one semantic model for BI. That really means 2 things. It means one model in terms of Microsoft. We previously had reporting services models, analysis services has models, PPS has models. So one thing also here means the charter for the analysis services team is to own the model. So moving forward, all modeling capabilities will be owned by the analysis services team. So we're going to consolidate, make it much easier for you guys to know which model to pick. The other part is now with Denali, we will be introducing the tabular project type. So we'll have one model, meaning for the client tools, it will look like one model regardless of which client tool you connect with. But for the developer, there's 2 project types to choose from. A multidimensional, which you know from Analysis Services previous releases, and now we are adding the tabular project type. And that is the tabular project type where we also had the opportunity to go and redesign how you're actually doing all the modeling, which is what we'll be focusing on in this session, for the remainder of the session. This is just the spectrum of BI, and now I'm thinking particular of the semantic model, the tabular project type, where you take one model, you can start in Power Pivot. It's the shared code base, because what we have between what we have in Power Pivot and what you'll be seeing in the BI Development Studio, meaning you can have an Excel user start a model or a project in Excel. We can take that model, either upload it to the server or give it to a pro that can then keep developing, enriching that model in a professional environment. So that's what we mean by one transition across the BI spectrum. We don't ask you to start from scratch whenever you outgrow a potential personal or team solution. Last slide. This one is just to call out for the tabular project type, what are the two different environments to choose from. It is, so far, a lot of the features are shared features. So you can do a lot of the same things. There's a couple of pro-only features, such as partitions and security. But apart from that, everything you see when I work in the BI Development Studio, you can also get to in Power Pivot. Just want to make that absolutely sure. So the Power Pivot v2 release is actually humongous. There's a lot of features in there. I won't be spending so much time on it in here, because a lot of you are probably here for the more professional environment, so I'll be showing that. But it is all available in Power Pivot. Think of it as Excel is the one file. Whenever you build your model, it's embedded into Excel file. This is the file that carries the project. As you upload it to SharePoint, we extract that file to the AS server. These are typically characterized with solutions that live for a shorter period of time. It takes a shorter period of time to do. So they can live for weeks, for months, etc. They are rarely planned. You just open the modeler and start pulling stuff together and working with it. Contra the Pro environment, which is often more planned out projects. You have a budget, you go and collect your requirements, you know what you're doing, you have a plan for it. Not that the tools at this stage actually required, but it's just the nature of the products or the projects. And they typically live for much longer periods of time and have larger data volumes. So with that, it's demo time. So I will start very quickly in Power Pivot, just for the 2 people that hasn't seen it, and also to show some of the features and how they light up in Power Pivot. And again, whatever I show in here is also present in the BI Development Studio. So let's go to this guy. Okay. So here I am in Excel. I have pre-built a model. Could have been a previous version. The time I upload an existing model in Denali release, we pop your message saying this model was built on a previous version. Do you want to upgrade? If you say yes, voila, it's upgraded. That's your upgrade process. So here I'm in a model built with Denali features. Yeah, I was sitting on the plane. I'm like, oh, I know you guys don't look at bikes every day, but we do. We look at bikes in movies. I'm like, I want to do something different. So we're in Atlanta, so I chose soft drinks as my theme. Coca-Cola didn't want to give me their data warehouse, so these are actually mocked up data, just to be sure. So a typical core scenario for Power Pivot is I've pulled in all my data. All of these tables represents tables from my data warehouse. I've pulled them in from my sales data warehouse to go and analyze sales. In addition to analyzing sales from my own source, I want to compare to industry trends, which is where you take the structured data from your data warehouse and mash it up with your unstructured data from your desktop. In this case, these are the sales from all my competitive, all my competitors, which I'll use to calculate how am I doing according to my competition, what's my market share, for example. A typical scenario where you take the structured data, mash it up with something to answer a very, very specific question just for me. It may not be relevant to everybody else, but it makes my analysis richer to be able to do that. Okay? So that's what I've done so far. For the few of you who hasn't worked with Power Pivot before, the reason I pulled in the data is not because it's hard to do, which it typically is when you see a loaded project, because you want to hide. I promise you, it is as easy as filtering an Excel table. So you should go download go to powerpivot.com and try it out in case you want to challenge that piece. So I'll go back here into the little report that I've built. We can see here I'm doing pretty well. Soft drinks doing pretty well. That is obviously the biggest market piece of revenue I have here. The energy drinks, sport drinks doing okay. Nuts here not doing too well. I can just drill down into it. I have 2 products, one called Barely Nuts and the other one Completely Nuts. Can't really complain that no one want to purchase those, so maybe that's a good reason. But now what I want to do is mash this up with the copy-pasted table. I go in and I add my sales from my competition. There you go. This is really all it takes. I happen to create the relationship. If it wasn't there, we would automatically detect it and add it. So here I have mashed up data from two sources, a typical Power Pivot scenario. So now what I want to do, let's say these are data that I would want to track for a period of time. It's a core metric for my business. How am I doing according to competition? What's my market share? So for that, I would like to create a KPI, which happened to be one of the new features that we release. So I'll go to my sales amount. Now my create KPI control lights up. I'll click it. Here's my dialog. There's no writing of formulas. Everything is wrapped in a UI. This also given that this is for Excel users to be able to go do as well. We borrowed the concept of think of conditional formatting when they go and do that, and they actually define the KPI. Obviously, when it's defined, it's stored as part of my model, and I can reuse it in all my other pivot tables. It's like connected with this model, conditional formatting, where you have to reapply for every pivot table. So I can pick a measure. I have the industry trends measure in there. I can define my thresholds by dragging and dropping. We have some different, here I'm saying green is good. There's cultures where red is good, so you can reverse the colors, or where you have negative, like loss, for example. You can do closer to target if you have utilization of machinery, for example. So you have some different options here, and you can obviously change out your different icons, and you can change granularity. So here's a greater granularity for what I can go do. I'll just pick one. I will say I'm quite aggressive. So okay, if I have 80% of the market share, I'm happy. If it's less than 50, I'm not so happy. So that's all it needs to take to design my KPI. I would say okay, and it will actually go back and generate the KPI for me. So it added by default. Let me just, since I have a very low resolution here, let me just tighten this up. So now we can see exactly what I saw before, but I have the indicator icons here telling me at a glance how am I actually doing for each of these. And now this is stored as part of the model. You see that the measure I had, I enriched to being a KPI. I transformed it into a KPI. So this is represented here by the value field. So I can always get to that original measure by doing that. So here's, you can say, green is good. I know it's above 80%. How will my end users know? How will they know what it actually means? They can see it's good. But I also have the ability to go in and edit my settings and add descriptions. So I can go in here and say KPI, tracking, market share. And I can say 80 is good. Below 50% is disappointing. Feel the pressure. And here I could say green is good. And okay? And I can say okay. I know in some situation you would want to be able to add these to the actual pivot table. We support them as annotation over in the field list. So as the users hover over the field list, these will actually appear. And they can get a little bit more context of where to use the KPIs. We also, as part of V2, added annotations to all the objects, actually, so measures as well. So you can go and explain, if you have complex calculations, how they are made up. We have it on columns and on tables as well. So that's KPIs. Another thing for years using Power Pivot, do you see anything nice over here? Yay! Normally, we like in V1, we really like to sort a month alphabetically. We thought that was very cool. Now we have given you the opportunity. We have given you the opportunity to sort by another column. If I have time in the end, I'll go show it. But it's 2 clicks, and you can take any column and define the sort order by another column. So there you go. Thank you, Grant, for showing so much excitement down there. With that, now I could go ahead. I can publish my model. I could publish my workbook to SharePoint, and now other users can go use this. Time passes by. People are so fond of my KPI. Suddenly, I have 400 users on this solution. So now what am I going to do? I could either keep it as is, or I could hand it over to IT. There's two ways now to hand over. I can either say, I don't want a BI pro or anyone to keep developing. This is exactly what I need. I don't need any more development work. But volume is growing, so I need partitioning, for example. So what I can do with this model is I can save it. I'll do that. And I can now go to SSMS. In SSMS, we've also revamped the entire UI, so you will actually see tables in here instead of dimensions and measure groups. What I can do in here, I can go right-click, restore, regular restore, and I have a restore from Power Pivot. What that is, simply browse to a file, saved a copy out here called Atlanta Soft Drinks. There you go. Oops. Nice resolution here. Whoops. Let me just do this. Say OK. Now I will give it a name. Atlanta Soft Drinks. I'll just call it Excel. So there you go. So I remember it. And it will actually go ahead, point to the file, extract the data file, and restore that on the server. So I'll just see. It will take a second. While this is running, the other thing I could have done is given them to the model or the project to a BI pro who would like to go and continue developing, enriching the model in the professional environment. I won't actually show that, but it's the same concept. You want BI Development Studio, you point to a file, you say import, and we give you everything. There's no migration. It's as simple as what you've just seen, and you have now migrated. It's a new nice word of migrate, isn't it? So I can go in here and refresh, and now there you see the database, the tables. You see all the tables that I pulled in. Now I can go ahead, I can define partitions, process my tables, etc. So this is just one scenario where you could hand it over and, for example, do more data volumes if that's what you need to do. Later on, if I keep developing on my project, I can just give my IT guy a new file 3 months from now and say, please replace it. So I can go and do that. So it's not that I have to stop developing, but it's just a different environment where you kind of move files around. And at this stage, I can just use Excel, connect using the traditional connect to AS database, and the end users can use regular Excel to connect to this file. OK, so let's move to the BI Development Studio. A question? The KPIs and calculator issues will be available? Absolutely. Everything I built will be available. Yes, one more question?
Yes. Will it be possible for the ordinary user then to continue making changes, fixing something, and for to be updated to the database like you just showed without having to recreate it?
I will be recreating it. Another thing that you should be aware of when you do this, we give you. Oh, yes, I can repeat the question. So you're saying, can I actually update it and keep developing? Thank you. And I will keep forgetting this. So if you can just keep an eye on me, I'll do better. What will happen in this release is we give you the ability to upload, and users can benefit from that and connect to it right away. But we're not going to hook up your reports afterwards either. So you will consider this now a new project. You go and hook up everything afterwards. So it's kind of, we give you a little bit. We don't give you the whole story. We will do that for the BI Development Studio. That is more complete. Can we hold the questions just for a little while? They'll now keep moving. So now I'll go into the BI Development Studio. Again, I could upload that project. I want to start from scratch just to show you the process. I can go in here. So I am in a Visual Studio. I can load go to File, New Project. I have at this stage, all the BI development projects. This will be integrated as part of Project Juno. So you'll see all the SQL development projects as well. But here's what you know from analysis services today. For the BI projects, you have reporting services, integration services, etc. Here I have the import from Power Pivot, which is what would give me the browse to and go to the file. I want to start a tabular project from scratch. The names of all this will change. Ash had another build yesterday. Oh yeah, talking about builds. this build is from yesterday. I can guarantee you I will see new features along with you, and if we are lucky, you can see recovery. We'll see. So I'll call this my Pro Soft Drink model, and I'll say OK. So now what happens is that it creates an empty tabular project for me in here. It's creating it over here. What will happen now, it's taking a little while. So this is actually my email desktop. It's no server. It's what I do my email on, so not impressive at all. But here's an empty project. So here's the Solution Explorer. Looks different than what you have for analysis services. Everything is actually one file. It's rather than dimensions, and you can, but you can still do your source code, check out the model, and have people check it in again. So a few things happened. When I connected and created this project in SSMS, I created a workspace database. So we created this database, which is my workspace database, meaning that I have all the data, everything I work with in memory, and it's here in my workspace database. This will be here all the time, and I will use it as I start developing. I want to go and explore how this would look in Excel. I'm connecting directly to this workspace database. So it's not deployed anything yet, and it will go away. You can set your own rules for how you want to do the retention of these, so you can get rid of them, whether they should stay in memory, go to disk, etc. But it's just to point out, that's what happens when I create my project. Still an empty project. Now, some other things. Let me just start by importing some files. You can see here we are integrating into the Visual Studio environment. We have, with the menu system, we have 3 new menus you'll see here. One for the context of the entire model, one for tables, one for columns. You'll see that as I work through. We have a dedicated toolbar here that comes as soon as you create the tabular project. We have integration here to the property grid. Great blank integration right now. So let me just go ahead and pull in some data. The import wizard, same as some of you may know from Power Pivot. Same, everything is the same. Just add it in here, so it's one wizard. I'll just connect to my local server. I will connect to my Atlanta soft drink data warehouse. I will just use my service account in this case, which is the account running analysis services. And I could obviously go and write my own SQL. I can write my own queries. I can use the graphical query designer to go and create it. I am short on time and I'm lazy, so I will pick the easy way out and just pick from a list of tables. Again, as you know from the multi-dimensional projects, I can pick related table. It's scanned through, pick up my relationships, and pull in the tables. In addition, I want product category and subcategory. So all this is what is for analysis, for Power Pivot. And you can always choose your granularity. You can go in and filter your tables or write queries to to decide the granularity of the data set that you pull in. I won't go through all of that. We haven't really changed anything in that. So now I pull in the data. And now this is all pulled in to the workspace database that I have. Right? So all the data here is live. Every time I do a change, that's sent to the workspace database. Now you see here I also have integration with the error list. So how would that work? So here we have, let's say I create a calculation, I have an error. That DAX error, calculation error, will show in the error list, and I can double-click to navigate. So if I don't know where that area is, I'll just double-click, and we'll take you directly to that error. We'll show the error message, and you can go and correct it. So there's full integration there. Hopefully I won't make any more errors today, so I can dismiss that one. Other levels we have, apart from the 3 integration points here, we also have integration with copy-paste here. This is actually from the Visual Studio one, so if I put data on my clipboard, I can go in here. Now you say copy-paste, paste append, paste replace. So these are what you also know from Power Pivot, an AS-specific command. So still, even if you are in Visual Studio, we allow you to copy-paste of tables. Not that you will do it for many professional projects, but if you do mashups, if you want to quickly just test your data, do you have everything? Plus, it allows you to keep working with the data. When you have copy-pasted data in Power Pivot, we don't break in that process of migrating the model. So just want to point out that it's there because it's pretty well hidden. So when it comes to the property grid, we integrate on different levels. On the model level, there you go, the property grid changes. This is, by the way, I'm showing you working in the cached mode. So I'm pulling all the data, storing them. We also have the direct query mode, where you can turn on and off. So this is actually the only UI change there is when working related to direct query. So this means it will pass through directly to your backend. There's some limitations, so when you set this, you can only connect to one source. We support SQL Server for this release. You cannot have calculated columns, for example. There's stuff like that because we push the logic back into the backend. So there's some things to be aware of. If you have already started working on a model, have calculated columns, etc., and you want to change the mode, we will tell you exactly what to go change. So you can still do it, but it's nice to think up front, and you normally would know whether it's going to be direct query or cached mode. So in addition to that, we have obviously table property integration. So data source is really my table properties. So this is the source view of each table. I can go back and edit what I pull in. I have on columns here, obviously, I have formatting, data types, everything integrated here rather than the ribbon that you know from Power Pivot, which really doesn't belong in here. Another thing you see here are advanced properties. This will change a little bit, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But this is another word for this would be reporting properties. And very, very specifically, right now, you can call it crescent properties. This will be properties that is available for any reporting tool that will be building on the model. Right now, we're working very closely with Crescent, and they help define these. So for example, if you see some of the demos in Crescent, you click a table, and automatically, magically, we pick 3 key columns, not all of them and not none of them, right? Those key 3 tables, the magic happens in the BI semantic model right here. This is where the modeler define. So you don't have to set these properties, but the more time you spend doing it, optimizing, the more easy it will be for your end users. Okay? So that's the integration pieces. Now I could actually go here. Again, I can go and analyze in Excel. What am I going to use this for? I'm going to use this for seeing how will this actually, whatever I'm building, appear to my end users when they connect, in this case, with Excel, right? Here I'm using the workspace database, so I don't have to deploy or anything. I can just connect and go out here. I'm obviously missing something very vital right here. I have no measures yet, so with Excel, I can't really use it. We have a funny one here. We have one measure. It's called count of model. Useful, right? This is because Excel has a requirement for have at least one visible measure, otherwise we can't even show anything. The count of model, that word, I'll take the blame. If anybody has a better word, you're never supposed to actually be using this. It's just a placeholder. Until you define real measures, this will actually go away. So let me go in. So the first thing I really want to do before I can create anything useful is to create some measures. And so let's go in here. First thing I want to do is, well, sum of sales. Pretty useful measure. We have a quick access way to doing that. It's up here, sum. I just click sum of sales, and magic happens. There you go. This is sum of sales. So what happened here? We have a list of what those of you who know Power Pivot think of these potentially as your implicit measures. These are not, so the measures you get when you have a pivot, you have a model in the back end, but you haven't defined any measures. We allow you to drag numeric values into the values area. We automatically give you these options. That you don't have Excel. We still give you these options. Why? Because it's just a very easy way to get started. So this was one measure, and look, it automatically picks up the formatting, whoops, which is obviously persisted now through to the end users. I can multi-select, click sum. You have to let me, that is easy, isn't it? You can be impressed. No? No. Ooh, there you go. Very impressed. So if I go back, what this means is I can go in here now and refresh, and there are all the measures. So this is literally all it takes. I'm not saying it's a superb model, but it is a model. You can very quickly pull data in, add some measures, and you can give it to your users, right? So it is literally 5 clicks. The demos we used to do, I worked in marketing before. I love this with all the magic, and you can do a cube in 5 clicks. Now you really can do it. It's for real. And I'm no longer in marketing. So there you go. So now I could go ahead and deploy it. But obviously, it is a semantic model. So the more time I spend in here, the better the experience for my end users, right? So next thing, let me just talk a little bit more about this. What's up with this grid? It's weird, right? I'll take the blame for that as well. So this is either the joy or the curse of shared code-based features with the Power Pivot model. So why is that? In Power Pivot v1, one of the biggest blockers we had, or where people stopped, was understanding the difference between a calculated column and a measure. Let's say I want to do profit, right? Let's do profit. I have here sales amount and I have cost. I want to know the difference and I want to have a measure. I'll go in here, I'll insert a column. Imagine I don't have the grid. When you have the grid, for some reason, that actually makes you think in the right way. But let's say I don't have it. I'll go in here and I'll say equal sales amount minus the cost. And I'll say OK. And I'll give this a name, and I'll call this profit. OK? Now, if I want to have this as a measure, what am I going to do? I'm going to click sum of profit, and it's done. In Power Pivot, what happened, and where we actually had a lot of users just couldn't get any further, was say they would get to this part. Now they need the measure in the field list. So they will take this formula, copy it from the calculated column, paste it into create measure dialog box. And it's not working so well. But to understand those concepts were really, really hard for them. So by doing this, we did a lot of prototyping testing on this. And we asked them again, can you do profit? And there was no even hesitation. So yes, for you guys, I admit it, it's a weird grid, but I think even you may get used to it. So there you go. And other things like this, and I think for you it's more important to know, I just add these at the bottom of the tables because that's what makes sense for me. It's a free-form grid. I can add it anywhere I want. I can go here. I can say monthly sales. Oops, there you go. Equals sum of sales divided by 12. And I can say OK. And that's my monthly sales. And I can now go and format it. So nothing requires it to be very there. But I think for a lot of you guys, that's a harder concept. Why? It's weird. I want a list. And you may get a list, just not in this release. So there you go. That's the measure grid. What else? Oh, I could do this as well. I could do, if I do now a count of unit price, I'll get the same number as I have down there, 60,000 something. What I want to know is my distinct count. Voila. That was distinct count, people. 1 click. Still not impressed. Either you're tired or thank you. OK. Let me save this model. Now we get into a potential area where I may want to show you recovery, just so you know. So I saved this model. So now I've already added these. Again, I could go deploy. I want to spend some more time enriching this, so I will go to my diagram view. Let me just see. That's OK. So here, I have my diagram view. Probably the most frequently requested, biggest request from Power Pivot. Obviously, now we are in the pro environment. We have to have a diagram. And we are very proud of our diagram. So let me just, the resolution here is actually really, really just low. So it's really hard to see. I'll just move this, move these a little bit if it's worth the time. Obviously, this wasn't built for demo purposes. I'll just, whatever. OK. Luckily, we have Zoom as well. right? So I have zoom, I have fit, I have 100%, I have the minimap up here, which I can use as well. So I can use that to navigate my model. Not so crucial with this small model, but there you go. Wow, oh, I didn't hear it. Can you do it again? Yes, there you go. Okay, obviously we're very excited. So that's all good. Now, logically, what I want to do in here, things like creating relationships, I want to do that. So now when I click a relationship, two things happen. We highlight the tables in each end. Huh? They glow. They're glorious relationships. So now I could delete this guy. We can delete as well. You don't have to be excited about that, but we can. So I have multiple ways I can do it. I can right-click my column. I can... No, that wasn't what I wanted to do. So sad. But I can do that later. No. I don't want to go there for this one. It's not worth it. I'll go here, and I'll say create relationship. We open the dialog that you already know and love from Power Pivot. I pick my tables, my related table. All that is good. But we can get a little bit more fancy than that. We can actually use drag and drop, and it will create the relationship. Now, there you go. There's the relationship. So this actually makes it much more easy. When you have one fact table, you just drag out the relationships. It's done in no time. And it's fun, too. Not crescent, but it's still fun. So sorry about that. I had to do it. So another thing you see here is you see dotted lines. Yes. These are dotted lines, in case you didn't see. So what are these? In Denali will support multiple relationships between tables. In V1 of Power Pivot, we imported relationships that we could find. As soon as we found the first one between two tables, we stopped. We gave you a notification saying we dropped the rest. What we're doing now is telling you loud and clearly there are three relationships between time and your fact table, right? So I have here, let me just move this one a little bit so we can better see. So I have this one between my ship date, my due date, my order date. The bold line, the full line is my active relationship. That's the path it will travel if I do nothing and my users if they do anything in the pivot between time and fact. That's what they will use. But it also tells you you have two others. You can only have one active at a time. So I can right-click this guy and say mark as inactive. I can right-click the other ones and say as active. So I can switch them. Now, you don't want to do this just for the fun of it because you are changing the results. But at least it tells you you have to make a choice. You don't have to. You should take a look and see what they are. In addition, what happens here is I can travel the inactive relationship using DAX. So I can create meshes where I say, use this relationship. So I can have some of sales based on the ship date, some of sales based on an order date, etc. I'm not going to show you that. Casper and Aswini have a session tomorrow on DAX enhancements, and they will show you how to go do all that. But it basically just gives you more flexibility. Again, in Power Pivot, this doesn't get in the way of anything because it hasn't really changed unless you go look for it, right? So nothing has changed there, but we still add the richness of being able to do more. So what else do I want to do in here? Now I want to go and actually, here I have 3 different tables. So when I created my Power Pivot workbook, I dragged in product category, subcategory, and product from 3 different tables. That's not what I want to surface to my end users. I just want to show product, one table, hide the other ones, and build a hierarchy, for example, right? So I want to minimize, instead of having 7 clicks, I want 1. They just click the hierarchy. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll go back into and add my calculated columns from these ones. So let's go in there. Yes! I could do it. I will show you recovery. So let's just let this work for a second. So this is the joy of being very adventurous. When you want to do your demos, you want to show everything. While this boots up, I'll just talk through what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the, connect to the, I'm going to the product tables, it's rebooting. I will use some DAX syntaxes, related syntax, which travels the relationship between the tables to pull in those additional columns. So I can kind of make that look in one table. Let me just go in here. I'll actually, let me just see. Go and refresh this one first. I'll delete this guy. And I'll go back in here and connect to my Pro model. Hopefully, it will just all come up. This will actually recover the metadata. So it will give me the metadata back, and I'll go and process all the tables. And hopefully, if everything runs as recovery should, I will get my entire model back to work with. There are all my metadata. I'll go here, refresh it, refresh all, and it will scan through. This will just be a second or two. There you go. Say OK. My project is recovered. That was slick, huh? Just what I wanted. Yeah. So I'll go in here. I will right-click, insert column, also new in V2. You don't have to go to the far, far, far right of the table to find it. It's right there. You say insert table or insert column and say equal, related. I travel the relationship. I go back to my category, pull in this column, which is what I want to display. I will call this my category. I'll go in here, insert another column, use the same function, related, sub-product category. There you go.
Is the data stored in the source process the way
No. No, the data is actually stored in the workspace database for now until I actually go and deploy it. So it's out of the process. Sub-category. There you go. So now what I can do, and one thing to note here is every time I work with my data, I'm in the data view. So everything data-driven, at least for this release, happens in the data view. So that means adding calculations, adding columns, adding measures. It's not in the diagram view. It may come, but we need to do a little bit more research for how it makes sense. One thing we have, I call it the complexity police. We want to make sure we don't just add features and make it hard. We still want to make sure that you can quickly get up to speed on how to doing stuff. So now I can go back in here. Yeah, let me just save this one now that I know what can actually happen in real life. I'll go down here and find my, I'll go over here. That's my categories. So now that I have the product categories in here, let me do two things. I can actually go in here, just make sure they came over. Now I can hide these guys. I can select both of these. Apparently I can't. That's a very hard task to do. Hide from client tools. This has changed a little bit from Power Pivot as well. In Power Pivot we have 3 hide from. One of them was, for example, hide for me but not for my end users. We didn't think that was so cool anymore. So we have changed that to just say hide from client tools. And obviously when you upgrade, you'll have a seamless experience. You won't get any surprises. So now you can see, if I zoom out a little bit, I have hidden this too. You see they're hidden. So we have, yeah, we have marked them. We mark them as hidden to give you a hint that they are not visible for the end user. But a lot of you guys still want to see the data there. I want to, or not the data, the metadata. I want to know that they are there. But if I don't want to, I can make magic happen. I can choose whether I want to show hidden or not. In this way, we could accommodate both Excel users. They don't want to see what they've hidden. For them, hidden means it's gone. It's very frustrating if it keeps being there. I hid it. So that's how we can accommodate both. So if I zoom in again, what I can do here is I have in product here, I can create hierarchy. That's a little icon opening up there. What I can also do is maximize my table. Now this is my workspace. As you can see, the diagram in the back end has been dimmed out, meaning the relationships you see pointing out here, they're not actually valid. This is just my workspace now to give me a little bit more surface to work with. So what I'll go and do, I would create my hierarchy for product name, category, and subcategory. I would right-click and say hierarchy. And magic will happen. And we will create a hierarchy. I'll call this products. Are you ready? So am I. There's my hierarchy. Wasn't that simple? Yeah, I see a little bit excitement. So this is one way of creating a relationship. We automatically detect the order here based on cardinality. So for me, it actually happens to work here. Category, subcategory, product name, right? Now you see, it doesn't always work like that. This is just a suggested path. So if you multi-select, we'll detect on cardinality, and you can go and manually adjust. So go and verify. It's not a bulletproof. This is how it's going to be. The other way, if I create the icon up here, I'll create an empty hierarchy where I can just drag and drop myself and position them exactly where I want to have them. But in here, you see, I have my original names. These are my original source column names, which I can hide or show. They're on by default because up here now, I have products. This is called product name. This could have been called product category and product subcategory. I want to rename those so they are more natural in this context. When I do that, I kind of lose the track of what this guy is. So if I delete this guy now, I also delete it from my hierarchy. I still don't want these to show up, though, so I can just go here, right-click again, and I'll hide from client tools. That doesn't mean I can still work. I can still work with these hidden. I can still add them to other hierarchies, not to the same hierarchies, but I can add them to other hierarchies. So all the fields that I don't have in the hierarchy, I can also, instead of using drag and drop, because some of these tables can be pretty large, and dragging, dropping in this little surface may not always be efficient, right? So I can right-click any field and say Add to Hierarchy. This list is dynamic, so if I have 2 hierarchies, it shows 2. If I have 50, it shows 50. So it's just a way in context without trying to maneuver everything that you can add a field at any time. So there you go, that's product. So I think now it's time to have another look in here, how this looks in Excel. I can just go, refresh this guy. So now I can pick sum of sales amount. Let me go and find product. Oops, there you go. One click. And it's all there. Voila. Easy peasy. Thank you. So that was one way of enhancing. Let me just check the time. I still have some time. That's good. So what else would I be showing you? I want to show you the navigation in here. So you saw I built all the meshes. I have now some hierarchies, not all hierarchies. So how do I get to my list of meshes? You do that by using, let me just do a little bit like this. There you go. We have tag filtering. So I can remove all columns. And right now, very easily, I can actually see all of my meshes and all my hierarchies. I can filter this as I want to. But this gives me a quick access to kind of go and find the object types you're looking for, because obviously this is a small diagram, it's a small model, but that will increase. But this is a way of going and filter down your view and find your different objects. Another way of filtering down your objects is using perspectives. So let's have a look at that. I have another project here. It's a little bit bigger project. It just makes it harder to work with on this low resolution. So in here, I have 2 fact tables instead of 1. So I have reseller sales and wholesales, right? Now I want to create, for my end users, really, this is the same as it was in Analysis Services 2008 R2 and other releases. You define perspectives based as a subset that you want your users to connect to. But we are using it for a little bit more in this release. But first, let's have a look at perspectives. I'll go in here, select perspectives, add a new perspective. Again, very simple. Because it's a pro tool doesn't mean it has to be hard to do. I'll call this whole sales. I'll go in, I'll just make it simple. I will pick whole sales. Obviously, I can drill down into here. It automatically picks all of them. All my meshes are also down here. I can deselect the ones that I don't want, obviously. It's kind of self-explanatory. I will add product, territory, date, and customer. Okay, next perspective. As I've said it before, I'm lazy. I'll just want to make a copy. The only difference here is that I don't want wholesale. I want resellers. So I'll add resellers, reseller sales, and resellers there. I'll give it a new name. I'll call this resellers. There you go. And I can, oh, it wasn't that great. At least I got a name. So let me go reseller. Let me just pick some product, these. There you go, and reseller. And I can create a new one, just call it HR. It will only have one table for some magic reason. There you go. I've pretty easily, quickly created 3 perspectives, right? Wasn't all that hard. And I'll say OK. Now, when I go back in here, I can go in and choose any of these. So this will obviously show me, just as when you connect to it using the existing connect, what this perspective will look like, right? So there's the only tables that I added here. Easy peasy, not too complex. What I can do now that I have the perspectives, I can also use that at design time. So what this will do is just reduce the surface that I'm looking at. So if I know I'm only going to work with wholesales, I can just minimize the view, make it much easier to navigate. And again, have in mind the difference between this and you probably already figured that, and analysis services is the data source view in analysis services is, as the words say, the data source view. This is not the data source view. This is the model view. So this is everything you have in here. That's why we can actually allow you to do modeling in here. So we don't have the ability to create multiple views, but we added this instead and said, how can we leverage perspectives to kind of streamline the experience and make it easier to scale larger projects. So some things to think about in here, though. So if let's say I add a, here I have some hierarchies as well. Let's say I did a silly little hierarchy that I don't really need for anything. It's just for doing it, just because it's fun. I'll go ahead and create it. I'll call it foo. Now, I am, despite the little technical difficulty here, where it shows me something else, I am actually in my wholesale perspective. That was where I created my hierarchy. What do you think happens now? If I go, it's obviously added to default, which is my model. Is it added to resellers? Good. You can get a little present. No, it is only added to. Yeah, you can. I have a little quarter. Yeah, no. So what you see in here when you go in is you have reseller. Now this has changed. I didn't do partly select this one, but because I've added more objects in here, you'll see that it's obviously not in there. So if I wanted there, I can go add it. But normally when you work in that perspective, it's normally because that's the user group you're focusing on. You may not even want it there. And the tables may not even be there, okay? So let's save this model out. Next thing we should probably have a look at is security. Actually, let's quickly do a sneak. I just want to show this in Power Pivot. I had the feeling walking away from the questions from yesterday's session is like, what's really new in Power Pivot? I just want to show you that I'm not going to repeat everything I've done so far. That's not why I'm going to run out of time. But I want to show you, first of all, we have the diagram in here. There you go. It's green in here. Do you know we follow the colors of Excel? You can change the colors of all this. If you do not like green, you can change it. So here's the layout. Here you don't see perspectives. Why is that? It's because perspectives is an advanced feature. And an advanced feature means, in short, internal language, we will make it really, really hard to find. You can find it if you have to, but we will make it hard. And that is by design. I'll take the blame for that as well. So I can go in here, go to advanced mode, and I get an advanced tab. This is where I get perspectives, right? Let me just go. I just want to show you how you can actually go and find it. I'll just call this. It would help if I could spell, then I could find it again. I'll say just show my wholesales and 2 other things. There you go. Create my perspective. So in here, again, you can verify it in here, but you can also check it in your field list. So now this guy appeared. It wasn't there before. Now, what this does is a little bit different. It's just filtering my field list. I won't break all the pivots that I have. I'm not reconnecting. I still have only one connection that goes back to the model embedded. It is just a filter for my field list. So to make it easier to work with a subset and to test what you have built. So it's just important to understand. I'm the admin. I have access to everything anyway. So this is just a way of validating what it is that I've built. And these are the reporting properties as well that you can go in and define, which we want you to have the opportunity to go and do this in Power Pivot, but we don't want to surface it to every user. They see this, I'm like, oh, wow, this tool is not for me. So we want to make it hard. Other features that we have in here, like here's the sort column by other column. Everything is in there. Hierarchies is in here. That's not advanced feature at all. So that you can get to. It's only the perspectives and these. We may add more later on, but for now it's only those. So everything you've seen so far is in Power Pivot. Okay. Let's go back to my Pro model. Next thing I want to add is security. Yes, let's do that one. I'll go back in here. So what we support in this version is row-level security. So you can secure the rows of your tables. So I'll go in here. Let me actually pick this one. Yeah. This one. I will go to sales territory, a very logical way of applying security. I want to create a role. That doesn't work anymore. Oh, there you go. I want to create a role where you can for only users in the US. I pick US because there's more rows. It's kind of a jump of things. So I can go in here. By the way, the orange dots, it's not because we think they're fancy. It's temporary icons. So even in the CTPs, you will actually see these orange dots. We don't think they're fancy, but it's the only icon we're allowed to use when we don't have the final icons, just so you know. So I can go and give it a name. I'll call this one US Sales. And now I can go and give it permissions. You can have read, which means I can read the data. Read and refresh is obviously, if you give the model to the IT manager restoring, managing on SSMS, you want them to go and be able to refresh. So that would probably be this one. Not everyone needs to actually see the data, right? But just refresh, and you have read and refresh, and then obviously administrator. This guy should have read. And I can say for the US subsidiaries. I can't spell, so I have to shorten them. There you go. So with that, I can go ahead and apply a filter. For the rows, we use DAX functions. So we'll be using DAX functions that return a Boolean. So it has to be true or false. That's how we determine what you can see. So in this case, I wanted to do all of these guys, right? So I want to say, I go to the sales territory table, and I say equals. I'm going to see where sales territory key, which is the hidden guy over there, the first column, equals or is less than or equals 5. That should give me all the sales territories within the US. I don't have to write equal, but if I write equal, I get autocomplete, which, as you know, I'm lazy. I like that. I'll say OK and go in and apply this role. Go in. Now, I actually won't go and refresh. I will go and browse again. This time, I'm choosing my role, US sales, and go and apply this one. Say OK. And again, I'm using the workspace database. I actually still haven't deployed. I kind of forgot. I should go do that. So there you go. Now, let me add fact sales. So let me do sum of sales. I don't know how good memory you have, but the sum of sales in my previous report was not this. So what we support is visual totals. So even if I haven't yet applied my countries to the report, that is still only what I get. So we support visual totals. I'll go in here, and so now if I add my product, I just love my hierarchy, so I have to use them all the time. So there you go. There is, and now if I add my regions, you should be able to see, there you go. Now you see, and now I can validate that it's only that. But that was why the amount was smaller. We don't allow you to show anything, regardless of what you put on here, which is a little bit different from analysis services. So let's say I wanted to add more criteria. So I want to say, in addition, they can only see, let's say, sorry? I'm getting to that right now, and the answer is no. You can do and. So let me show you how that works. So if I go in here to my role, I can now create a new role. Easy way again, I'll just copy this guy, and I'll call this, what will I call it? I will call it carbonated. I'll do snacks, it's easier to spell. You would think. No, I couldn't. Snacks in the US. There you go. It's weird how I can maintain a full-time job at Microsoft, but apparently I can. So again, read permissions. It inherited this one, which is still valid, and I'll just go to category, and I'll say equal. See how good my memory is. Say it's product. It's not very good. Product. Now I feel the pressure, huh? Product category key equals 3. Now I can't remember if that's actually snacks, so we'll see what I get permission to see. I'll say OK. Oh, it's wrong. I have 2 snacks. Let me just go see what I actually did. 2. Let me go in here again. Woo. Category. Product category. That's why, where product category key equals 2. That should be OK. I don't like those yellow ones. There you go. Now I can go in here, and I can test my role. Snacks in the US. Hopefully it is the snacks in the US. There you go. And I will say sum of sales amount and products. And there's my snacks in the US. Oui. So there you go. What I could obviously do now is I can go in here. Since I'm an admin on this one, I can go into data, I can go into connections, into properties, into definitions, and I can simply, if I can find it, remove, not my safety options. That sounds too scary. There you go. Role US sales. I can remove this guy, say OK, yes, close. What did I do? I didn't do that. Well, in theory, it's actually true. It is true. I just got it just in a funky way. So now I've removed that, and I can just go and browse all the data. So what I really wanted to do before was actually go and deploy this project. Again, very easy. I go to my project. I'll actually save it. So you see, every time I have added content, I get the little dirty star. So I can just save my project. I can right-click my project, deploy. This works exactly like in previous versions. We'll just go ahead, deploy it to the AS server, and as soon as I've done this, I can obviously use the traditional connect to Excel that I have from Excel. There you go. Now I can go out to here, refresh my databases, and now I have my actual database, right? And this is where I can now also do partitions, process, etc. And here's still my workspace database. As soon as I close my project, I've chosen that that would actually be discarded and it will go away. But as long as I have the project open in BI Development Studio, I'll have that in here. So that leaves me to partitions. Let me just see if I have forgotten anything. Well, nothing. Are you thinking the ability to generate a timetable? Oh, sorry, the question. You're not helping at all, are you? So the question was if we support the date table. So the question for me back is, do you mean generate or mark as a date table?
Well, I know mark, but generate like you could.
In analysis services? Yes, unfortunately, we didn't get it in. It was on our list. We are still hoping to have room to do it, but right now it's kind of on the bubble. So there's two things happening when it comes to date, and some of you may have experienced it in Power Pivot as well. The ability to mark, and I'm sure Casper will be talking about it much more tomorrow as well. The fact that we don't mark a table as a date table or timetable in Power Pivot puts some other requirements around when you do calculations and also when you do filtering and sorting. Filtering and sorting. Oh, is my time up soon? I've been speaking too much. So that means you can't do the advanced sorting that you can Excel. You can't say previous month, next month, all that. So what we have done what you're talking about, the ability to have a date table, we had in two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is where we're saying, if you already have a date table or a timetable, we give you the option to mark it. Say, this is a date table. And we have implemented that. That's in Power Pivot, that's in here. What that means is when you now deploy this model and connect and using this in Excel, we will pick up all of that from Excel. So that is there. The basics are there. The next step, which is what we really would like to come to as well, is say, whenever I import my table, we'll give you the ability to define or create, based on the server, a time dimension, a date table, which would mean we will automatically detect when is your start date, when is your end date, and then add some more to it and automatically generate that. It doesn't exist in your source data, but you can still generate it. It's currently not in. We hope to get to it, but it may be next release. Go out and add your votes for it. So, yes. So now I have it here. You see all the tables from my model. I went and I deployed it, and I can obviously just go out here, use the same one, go to data sources, analysis services, just connect to my local. This is the one that I deployed directly from Power Pivot. This is the one where I built my perspectives, and this is the one that I built from scratch where I applied the security. And I can just click next, and it will finish, and you'll see the same as you have always seen when connecting to analysis services. So again, this little guy will go away, and you will just see your measures up there at the top. Another thing, I only have a few minutes left, but I quickly want, and Ashwini showed it yesterday, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it anyway, but I will want to talk a little bit about partitions. So that is in here. I can partition from here. And again, I can partition from in here, or I can partition from SSMS. I can partition any table. We don't treat the tables any differently. So here I can partition as well. By default, we have a master partition, so every table has one partition. I can go and add new ones, create a new one. I can write my SQL query to write it out there, and now I can go and process it. Now what happens is, now I obviously have my process default, full, data, clear, add, etc. And I can choose my perspectives. So with, perspectives, my partitions. It starts with a P. So when I now go and refresh, when you refresh data in Power Pivot, which will also be refreshed in BI Development Studio, which will be called Process, you have now 3 options. You can process the table, which you can do in Power Pivot. You can process all tables, or you can process partitions. And when you click Process Partitions, we will open a new dialog, and you can select your granularity for which partition you want to process. So in the BI Development Studio, you'll have much more fine-grained control over what exactly you want to process at which time. So, but that is also obviously only something that is available in the Pro tool set. With that, what else? Am I missing anything? Yeah, in here we've added more richness as well. So we have stuff like descriptions, so I can add descriptions to my tables that will show up in the client tools that will actually support descriptions. Obviously, it depends on the support for that. What else do we have in here? Here is the mark as timetable, should also be in here. These are all the ones that here it is, date. So if I go into my date table, I pick a mark as date table, and I can change that. So it's just marking it so you have that richer functionality available for you and your end users when they actually start using it. Yes, question? Huh?
Announcement. Has anyone been trying to do the hands-on labs for this?
I have a question. Has anybody tried the hands-on labs?
There's a fantastic hands-on lab for this and Crescent, but it's been corrupted. We've just fixed it.
Oh.
So the announcement is, as of now,
run!
end-to-end 90-minute lab on BI semantic model, what's being demonstrated, and working with Crescent. Working now.
There you go. Go try it. Can somebody make more of those announcements? No? Okay. With that, I will open up for questions. I want to thank you all for participating. If you have questions you didn't get answered because I was very strict saying that I may not answer them, so you didn't dare to, feel free to either come up, send me an email, jstrauss@microsoft.com, and that counts for questions, feedback, things you're missing, things you want. Anything you want. That's your privilege of having been sitting here for an hour and 15 minutes. Thank you. And please go and fill out the evals.